Hey everyone, I recently had what I guess I've come to call now my second coming out experience. My first time, obviously, for those of you that know me, was coming out as bisexual, which some thought pretty unnecessary since I'm in a monogamous heterosexual relationship. But I believe this second coming out was possibly far more necessary and possibly the most necessary thing I've ever done, and that was being honest and open about the fact that I have a diagnosis of post-traumatic stress disorder, most known as PTSD. Now, the reason I'm doing this video is there's been a whole lot of stir since I started talking about this. I've got some people that are pleased that I've been honest and open about this, saying that it's given them courage and realized that a lot of the stigma surrounding mental illness is quite silly and unnecessary. I have other people that have said things like, don't you realize that everybody that you're trying to minister to, that everybody that looks at you now is going to look at you through this lens of this illness that you have and never see you the same way again. My only thought to that is, I was born with spina bifida. I've been on crutches and in a wheelchair my entire life. If at any point in my life anybody was going to look at me for anything other than what I am, it's been my whole life. I truly believe the people that matter the most, the people who come into my life, whose lives I'm supposed to touch, are going to see me for who I am. I have a few things on my mind that I'd like to get across in this video. And the first is that there isn't any shame in having a mental illness like PTSD is. There are so many people who hide it, who don't want to go to a doctor, who don't want to receive that diagnosis, who don't want to take medication. They feel ashamed. They feel like they should just somehow snap out of it. I've heard people all over the place talking to people that suffered from depression, telling them they just needed to snap out of it and tomorrow would be a better day. Depression isn't just a bad mood that goes away when the sun comes back up the next day. It's a chemical imbalance. Post-traumatic stress disorder isn't just me having an occasional time where I'm jumpy or see things in my mind that happened in my past that just might go away the next day. It's something that took a long time to come on, and it's something that will never go away. It's something that can't be cured, but it's something that can be helped. And there's no shame in getting that help. There's no shame in getting the treatment that can make this much more manageable. To the people that say that my letting people know that I have this is letting it define me and going to make it define me to other people, me getting treatment and me being honest and open and getting this under control honestly is going to allow me to much better define who I really am, apart from all of these things that are able to be treated so that I can be more fully who I was made to be. Second thing is, recently in the news, I'm sure all of you know there have been quite a few suicides, mostly youth lately, but a few adults as well. A discussion came up very recently of somebody who had taken their life, and prayer was being requested for the family and for those involved and affected by the incident. And a comment was made that I don't believe there was malice behind. I believe it was just probably bad wording, where the statement was, well, this person made that choice. Now there's two things about that. If somebody's at a point where taking their life seems like the best option to get out of whatever situation's bothering them, whatever situation's troubling them, depressing them, making their lives so horrible, they likely are already struggling with a mental illness, with something like depression, like bipolar, like schizophrenia, like PTSD. They likely already have something like that they're battling. It's making it difficult for them to process things correctly. Is that their fault? No. when you're dealing with stuff like that, if it's not managed well, you really don't have choices in the same way that you do when your mind is thinking clearly, when your mind is processing the world around you clearly. I don't have the choice to not have flashbacks. I don't have the choice to not have anxiety attacks. Secondly, with the issue of this particular suicide, I don't honestly see how talking about choice and talking about blame are really of any help. I think those are terms that make us look backward at what's already happened. And I think what we really need to do is look forward. There's an epidemic going on. There are people all over the world who, for whatever reason, whether it be bullying, whether it be depression that just gets so far out of hand that they can't handle it, whatever it is, they think the best solution is to end their lives. We don't need to be placing blame. We don't need to be telling people, well, that's your choice to make if you want to do that. People who are at that point don't want to do that. They don't want to die. I've attempted to take my life twice. I didn't want to die. I wanted the pain to end. I wanted the suffering that I was dealing with, the situations that I was stuck in, to be over. And I was at a point of such desperation that I didn't understand any other way that that could happen with me being alive. Rather than talking about choice and blame when it comes to somebody taking their own life and when it comes to mental illness, why don't we start talking about responsibility? Why don't we start talking about loving one another? Not looking at one another as an illness, not looking at one another as a diagnosis, looking at one another as a person. I know people that are very, very scared of people that have mental illnesses because to them they're so different. All those people are seeing is the illness, they're not seeing the person. And there's a big difference. If we take the responsibility to reach out to one another, to treat one another with dignity, to treat one another with respect, to respond to one another's needs in a loving and caring way, and to also hold one another accountable, then guess what? The stigma is going to go away. These feelings of self-hatred because of a diagnosis and these feelings of shame, they're sure not going to be as prevalent as they are now. Fault, blame, choice, none of these things are helpful. What's helpful is love. What's helpful is bonding together and stopping the epidemic that started.